In this tutorial, we're going to use Adobe Illustrator CC 2020 in order to draw a street map. Now, sometimes you think this is going to be really, really complicated, but it's actually easy if you start off with some type of base map. So make sure you go and open up that base map in our assets. So let's do File Open, and go grab that sample map.png and say Open. I'm going to do a Control minus and zoom out a little bit. Now you can see my artboard is much smaller than my actual image, so we're going to go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. Let's do a object, artboards, fit artwork to bounds. Let's go ahead and save this before we get too far. So File, Save As, first initial, last name, underscore, what are we calling this one? Street map. And Adobe Illustrator and save, and you'll get a box that's going to pop up here and say OK. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and we are going to trace this image. So we want to go ahead to our Properties panel, and we take that opacity. So we see the opacity is right here. Let's drop it down to about 30% because we just want to be able to have something to trace. Alright, let's go to Window and Layers. You're going to be working with layers in this one. Let's go ahead and rename that first layer to Base, because that is the one we're going to end up tracing. Alright, so we're going to end up tracing this base layer. So the next thing we want to do is add a new layer, which is this little plus sign here at the bottom of the Layers panel. And let's go ahead and rename that layer Roads. So we're going to draw all of our roads on this layer. Alright, from here, let's see if I can do the Edit, Preferences. I want to see if I can go to Selection and Anchor Display, and go ahead and make sure your anchors are at max so they're nice and big so you can actually see what we're doing. Alright, at this point now we're going to go ahead and we've got our pen tool that we're going to use. So we're going to grab our pen, second one down, and we're going to actually start to draw some of these lines. So we need to add some colors to our swatches first. So let's go to Window. Let's come down to Swatches. And the bottom, we want to hit this little section. Pull this down a little bit so you can actually see it. You want to grab these little books right here, because we want to make sure we add some colors. Right now all we have is black and white. So let's go hit our little books and let's go to our default swatches, and let's go ahead and do art and illustration. So we've got some nice bunch of colors that are coming in here. So let's go ahead and add that to our swatches. Let's go to, it doesn't want to add. Alright, so let's go ahead and just pull that down here for now. So we've got that as our colors available. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to go draw paths. So we want to go here to our draw. Let's go to our properties. We want to make sure that we have no fill. So fill is set to none. And let's go ahead and on our stroke, let's set the stroke to, well, here, let's do this way. Let's go to default swatches, art and illustration. And let's go ahead and grab, well, we're going to copy it. So I'm going to grab red first. So, oh, I changed my fill. I don't want my fill to be that. I want my fill to be none. And I want my, why is fill not turning into none? There we go. Fill should be none. And my stroke, alright, let's pick that back up again. So our fill is going to go ahead and be none. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure my stroke, I'm going to go ahead and do my red that's down here on art and illustration. I'm going to go ahead and add that to the swatches. So it's up here in my swatches folder. So I've got my red. So I also know I'm going to need some other colors going forward, so we'll just leave that open for now. So let's go ahead and draw our paths. And we're going to go ahead with start with the red. So we're going to make sure that we're on our roads layer, because we want to make sure that we're drawing on that layer. And we're going to start making lines. So if you hold shift as you pull the pen, it'll go straight. So I'm going to go ahead and click in the middle here. I'm going to hold shift and drag over and click again. I'm not going to hit shift, or you can hit shift if you want, and go down to this ellipse. Now I need to jump my line. So I need to hit enter, and that'll end that line. And now I need to pick it back up. So I'm going to go ahead and click and start. Come down here, hold straight, hold my shift, click over here, hold shift, shift, and enter. And then let's go ahead and do one more all the way across. And enter. So now I need to go ahead and if I hide my base layer, I can now see those red lines. Don't worry that they're skinny, we're going to mess with them later. All right, still on the roads layer, let's go ahead now and add the yellow line. So we're going to go to our properties, and instead of our stroke being red, we want to go ahead and make it yellow. So let's do yellow, add to swatches, and it's going to appear there in our swatches so we can use it again. So we've got our stroke is yellow, so we're going to go ahead and start down here. So I'm going to click, shift, hold, click, and it's not quite perfect. We can go back through and fix that in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and get that one in here, shift and hold, and enter. Now I want to go ahead and click here to here for our yellow line, enter. And it's really hard to see because we've got that base layer underneath. So we will go through and play with that here in a little bit. Let's go ahead and change our stroke to kind of a blue color now. So let's go blue and add to swatches. So we're going to do it blue, and we've got blue going on here. So from here, hold shift and down, shift and down, enter, click, shift, down, enter. All right, so now I've got my blue. So the thing that leaves, the only thing we've got left is the green. So let's go ahead, go down to my swatches, pick a green, add to swatches. It's going to be in there. Our stroke is green. So let's go ahead with our pen, click, shift, click, enter or return. I'm going to pick that back up again. If you hold shift, it's going to go nice and straight. Shift makes it nice and straight. And I'm going to go ahead and put enter. So I'm going to go ahead back up to that layers panel and hide the base. So I can see I've got all of my layers where we pretty much want them to be, which is cool. So the next thing we want to do is, excuse me, we want to click the small circle right over here so we can select all those elements on the page all at once. So that's one of the beauty of using layers. You can select everything at once because now we want to mess with making them just a little bit bigger. So let's go to our properties panel. Let's go to our stroke and let's increase that stroke. So it's about the size of the sample. I think that's around 60 points. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that one. So now we can go ahead and I can take that direct selection tool and grab that direct selection and kind of replace that path. Oh, escape. I have too many at once. I want to make sure I'm just working with this path right here. I can re-stretch it and kind of fix it a little bit. It's kind of got off a little bit. So let's go back to our layers and turn them all on. I managed to just move all of mine over, so I'm going to nudge them back down. All right, so that's better. All right, so now I'm going to do a Control S and save what I've got so far. This one's going to need to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to click out on my pasteboard and just grab this path, bring it in just a little bit more, and grab this guy with my direct selection, so you can do one little point at a time. So it's kind of the beauty of the direct selection. Okay, so now I grabbed the base layer, which I didn't want to do. So now I'm on my roads. Let's go ahead and do hit my base and put it back. I managed to slide it up a little bit over. This is why we lock our layers, so it makes it a lot easier. So clearly this yellow guy got way too long. So I'm going to switch to my roads layer. I'm going to switch to this path with my direct selection, make it a little bit shorter. And now we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that base layer so it can't go anywhere. I don't want to accidentally slide it anymore. So we're going to go ahead now and we need to make the circles for the roundabouts. So we're going to go ahead and add another new layer. And this layer, we're going to go ahead and call roundabouts. And while we're over here in the layers panel, we're going to go ahead and lock the roads down so we can't accidentally grab those. Next thing we want to do is we want to create some circles. So we're going to go over here to our rectangle. Underneath is an ellipse. With an ellipse, we want to go ahead to our properties. We want to make sure it has no fill. We want to make it a black stroke this time. So let's go with this guy. Add swatches. Black stroke. And 60 points, so it's the same width as our roads. And we want to hold Shift and Alt at the same time, and it'll let us draw that circle from the inside out. Then I'm going to go ahead and let go of my mouse and let go of my keys. Then I can nudge it over accordingly. Mine's a little bit big. I'm going to Control Plus and bring that in so we can kind of hold Shift, bring it down, kind of nudge it over a little bit, until we're pretty close to our base. All right, so let's go ahead and draw another one. We're making sure that we are on our roundabouts layer. So I'm going to use my space bar and scroll over a little bit, kind of use that as a grabber. All right, so grab and do it again. From the inside out, Shift Alt, hold, pull out. So just kind of get some practice doing that. Or you can cut and paste them. You can copy and paste. So let's go ahead and do that with this one. Let's grab this one with our selection tool. Let's go ahead and hit Alt and pull, and see you get two arrows at once, and it's going to make me a copy. So now I've got, oh, didn't make me a copy. Should have made me a copy. All right, select my item. Okay, I'm going to hit Alt and drag. I'm going to try and hit Alt and drag. There we go. And there we go. So now I've got that one. Do a Control minus, zoom out. I need one more. So I'm going to hit Alt and drag, make sure I got those two arrows, and bring it down. Oh, way missed. You can use those arrows to nudge that over. Okay, so let's do a Control S and see what we've got so far. All right, so the next thing we want to do is make one called stops. So we need to add all of these little dots that tell us, let's turn off our road so you can kind of see where the stops are. So let's go ahead to our layer panel, add a new layer. We're going to rename it stops. All right, we're going to lock our roundabouts. We're going to make sure we're working on our stops layer. This time we want to make sure we're creating circles with an actual fill. So we're going to grab that ellipse, but this time on properties we're going to have our fill set to a color and our stroke set to none. So I need to go ahead and draw kind of a red dot. So let's go do a Control Plus and zoom in. I need a red dot, so I can do the same thing. My Shift Alt hold, make a red dot, and I can then go ahead and I can copy and paste it, Control C, Control V, and place them that way. It's usually easier just to draw one, so they're all the same size. There are other ways to do this as well, but at this point I just want to make it easy on you guys to kind of see what's going on. So you're going to go ahead and do that for all of the different stops. So I'm going to Control minus. Let's go ahead and do a, is this line supposed to be blue? I think this line's supposed to be blue. Let's take a look at our base layer. So yes, my line is supposed to be blue, but I accidentally do it as green. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that road layer. I'm going to grab my selection tool, and I want to go ahead and unlock it. I'm going to grab this tool right here and go ahead and make it blue instead. So I don't have to redraw it, I just have to fix it. And let's go ahead and relock that. So we're back up on our stops. And let's go ahead and drag this guy. So I'm going to drag and Alt hold. And I know it's supposed to be yellow, so what we're going to do is move it over here and change it to yellow instead. So I'll go to our properties, and our fill is going to be yellow, and our stroke is going to be none. So you see how it's pretty easy to go ahead and add all of those stops. So go ahead and pause the video and put in all the rest of your stops. All right. I am assuming you have all of your stops labeled now. Let's go ahead and play with one called labels. So let's go ahead to our layers, Lock our stops. Let's add another layer. Let's call it labels. We're actually going to work with some of the type now. All right, so with labels, we want to go ahead and grab our type character, type element, and with type, we can go over here to properties and see what we've got going on. If I just click, you're going to get some what's called lorem ipsum, just kind of some dummy text popping up. So it's a little bit small. I'm going to do an undo, zoom in a little bit, and we know that 12 is going to be a little bit small, so let's try like 36 and click and pick something. So I know this needs to be St. Louis Central. So you're basically going to retype the labels. And go ahead and put them where they need to go. So this one needs to be red for McPherson. So what I can do is just take this one, Alt and drag, make a copy. Instead of my fill being black, let's go ahead and make it red. And double click in there and with my type tool. And I can't remember what it's supposed to be. Move this guy out of the way for a minute. Supposed to be McPherson Avenue. So I'm going to go ahead. All right, and then go ahead and move it back over. So I've got it basically where I want it. So now you've got some weird ones over here like 7th Street, which is kind of crooked. So I'm going to grab McPherson and do an Alt and drag it over here. Go ahead with my text tool and change that to 7th Street. And now I need to be able to actually rotate it. So in order to do that, I'm going to go over here to my rotate tool. It looks like a counterclockwise little arrow, and that's going to allow me to move that from the edge there. And now I can take and move it down over here. So it makes it a little bit more clean when it comes to the rotation. All right, so I've got my 7th Street right there. So you're going to go ahead and label all of the different stops and things that we've got so far. Let's go ahead and do a Control S and save. And I want you to go ahead and push pause for a little bit and come up with all the layers, all the labels for all those different areas. So the last thing you're going to do is we need to draw that river. So let's go ahead and with our layers, lock labels. Let's go ahead and add a new layer. Let's call it river. Double click on it. All right, so I've got my river. Now we want to make sure our river is actually under our roads. So we're going to take that river and pull that layer down so it's between roads and base. So when we draw it, it will appear underneath because of the stacking order. Let's go ahead and grab our pen tool and our blue. Let's choose another blue and add that to swatches. Let's go to our, make sure we're on our river layer. We're on properties. We don't want to fill. We're going to go ahead and draw a line again, so no fill. We want to stroke, that is the blue. And let's go ahead and make it, we know our roads are about 60 and our thing's about double, so let's go 120. And let's go ahead and click and add that river. I start outside of my thing because you're going to see we've got a weird angle up here. So I'm going to hold shift and click, and shift and click. And I want to go up and over the edge over here, shift and click, and enter. Let's do a shift, or undo. I undid my path instead. Let's start here at the bottom, go up here, shift, click, hold, click, and click. Now we can do a few other things with our river. It's a little bit boxy right now. It's a little bit ugly. So let's go ahead and click on our path itself, on our river. And we should be able to see these little anchors that come in here, which actually allow you, if you pull them in, it's going to allow you to kind of soften some of those edges. So see how it's making that nice and soft there? So you do have the option to go through and, stop. So we've got this path. All right, so I've got my path. Show me my path. right here. Let's go ahead and do view outlines, and you kind of see it a little bit better. So here, if you do view outlines, you can see things just a tiny bit better, and you can kind of pull those anchors in. So view, and let's put it back at our GPU preview. All right, let's hide you over here for a second. So I've rounded that one, I've rounded that one. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's go ahead and look one more time at this guy up here. Let's go ahead and select that path. Let's make it red instead. Nope, undo. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm trying to grab this path in here. Here we are. So I'm going to go ahead and move it back over a little bit. I'm going to grab that direct selection, and I should be able to get that little anchor point. See how it allows you to change things in and out. All right, so that's how you get kind of those rounded corners. Let's do a control minus. So then you will have finished your entire map. When you've traced everything, it's all done, ready to go, go ahead and take this base layer and throw it in the trash because you are not going to need it anymore. Then we're going to do a control plus. And we can go object and artboards and nah, I don't even want to mess with it. So we will you'll have everything done, and then what you'll need to do is go through and package it. So like right here, my roundabout looks kind of weird. I'm gonna undo that one and grab that roundabout and squish it over just a tiny bit because I'm not happy with it. So I'm on my selection tool, and I just want to drag it over just a tiny bit. And it's not working. Isn't that fun? All right, selection tool. Here we go. All right. Maybe I want to move. Just go through it, adjust, make sure it's what you want for you before you flatten it, before you package it. So we're going to do a file and package. We need to save it. And let's go ahead. It's going to say, where do you want to save it? Make sure you put it in your folder. So I've got mine kind of in 10 jillion folders later because I've got a lot of different things going on. So this is in AI Maps. So we're going to select the folder. It's going to say, what do you want to name it? And instead of folder for street map, I want to put PKG so I know it's my packaged one. And go ahead and package. And okay, don't steal the fonts. And you can do show package, and it'll show you what is in your package file. Then you want to go back out just one. So I've got my Oser street map package. I'm going to do a right click, send to compressed file or whatever you need to do for the Mac, and that is the one you're going to turn in for the street map. So it's a relatively easy process. The pen is a little bit confusing at first, so just take your time and you will come up with something great.